Your one true pick for Week 6 DVR. Who is it and why?
I'm having a really difficult time walking away from the Rams. I know there will be plenty of future weeks where they stand out, but I just want to make it to the next week. And
Mm-hmm.
I think part of the problem for me is I have more faith in the Houston Texans than most people do at this point. I am so sad that I've become the guy that believes in the Texans. But part of the reason why I think the Rams are okay in this spot on the road against the Giants, questions about Daniel Jones, questions about Saquon Barkley, even if they were both playing, this is a Rams team that would still be favored probably by a touchdown on the road. And when you look at the win probabilities for this week, most of the teams that are ahead of the Rams are teams that I've already used. The exception, I think, would be the Bengals. How much do I trust the Bengals? Well, they're playing the Lions, so they're obviously in the conversation this week, but really it just comes down to the lack of better alternatives. I don't like being on a team that has 40% of pools on it. I think it's risky
Right.
just from a, hey, this is a chance to gain a lot of leverage standpoint. Unfortunately, I just didn't see a good enough alternative to take advantage of the situation that I would ordinarily be all about getting that leverage in.
Yeah, but I mean, the Rams are just such a bankable pick. I think here, like there are pools that I have where I'm going against the Rams. I can't use the Rams in this pool. I've used them already back in Week 1 against the Bears. There are pools where I'm not using the Rams, and it's ones where I have multiple entries, and I just don't want to not have the Rams available to me the rest of the season. Ones where I've already used the Rams. Let's say I have an A entry and a B entry, and I've used the Rams in one, and I don't want to then use them in the other, and then not have the Rams at my disposal for the entire rest of the season. This feels like a very safe pick. Like you said, even with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, Rams are going to be comfortable favorites in this game, as they should be. Without those guys, even bigger of favorites, even more comfortable of favorites. And certainly the jump from Daniel Jones down to Mike Glennon, is a big one. No matter what you think of Daniel Jones, that's a big gap. And Daniel Jones had been playing, better football this year than he was last year. That's a big, big difference. I really think the only argument for not taking the Rams this week is A, obviously you've used them already, or B, you feel like, this is the sort of pool where you're going to have to get to week 16, week 17, and you want them somewhere down the line. I really think that's it. I don't think there's a pot odds, a leverage play to fading the Rams here because it just feels like such a guarantee, such a comfortable pick to be making. So I really can't poke holes in your pick at all. What's interesting is that I can actually poke plenty of holes in my pick. I'm going with the Colts. I mean, that's the play that I'm making here. And it's, last week I talked about wanting to fade the Vikings because while they deserved to be the big favorites that they were against the Lions, like I just didn't really see it. Like ultimately, it still comes down to the team you're backing being a somewhat good team. And I just didn't see it necessarily with the Vikings. It felt like the right spot to fade them and take that leverage swing. And it almost came through for me. This feels like that too. I mean, the Texans were, a very game opponent for the Patriots last week. And, they've had a couple of games where they haven't just totally rolled over. They looked fine in week 2 against the Browns. They had a week 1 win over the Jaguars in a game that they really dominated. So, like, they just haven't been that totally hapless team that we expected them to be coming into the season, or that most 1-4 teams look like through 5 weeks. So, like, this feels like the right spot to be making that leverage play and going away from a Colts team that I don't need to see the rest of the schedule DVR. I feel pretty comfortable assuming that this will be the only time all season that 28 or 25 or 30% of your survivor pool, whatever it ends up being, is on the Indianapolis Colts. So this is a great swing to take against them. But I look up and down the charts and I'm like, man, like, can I like, they're better than the Texans, right? They're playing at home. It feels like they've rounded a corner. That was an impressive 3 quarters they put together against the Ravens. And, the week before they handled the Dolphins relatively comfortably. They do have a 3-point loss to the Rams on their ledger this season. Like, they're better than the Texans, aren't they? Shouldn't they be shouldn't they win this one? And isn't this going to be the only time to use the Colts? Certainly the best time to use the Colts if you're going to use them is this week. And those were the exact arguments I was using to fade the Vikings a week ago, but I felt like there were more options available to us last week that there just aren't this week, especially if you are like me and you've used the Rams and you've used the Buccaneers and you don't want any, so you can't have them against the Eagles on Thursday night. Like, if that's the pool that you fall into, which is me in a lot of my pools, I'm begrudgingly go with the Colts, and I promise you not watch 1 minute of this game.
So, what I'm really trying to figure out is if there's just something in my head with narratives, the thing you've mentioned a few times with Aaron Reese talking about how veteran laden the Texans are, and that
Mhm.
they're not the kind of team that's going to go out and just make a bunch of stupid mistakes and get blown out consistently. I don't know if I'm holding on too much to that and not looking at the numbers. I like looking at the Massey Peabody power rankings. According to that system, the Texans are the worst team in the league, and it's actually not even close. They're like 4 points worse than the Jets on a neutral field, which is
Where are the Jaguars in that, out of curiosity?
28th. So they're or 30th rather. They're two from the bottom.
Yeah.
So I mean, okay. So let's just say like let's say that model's a little off. Is it still a situation where I'm underestimating the Colts? Like I don't really know what it is about this game that I don't like. If it's a case where I don't know if this is just a case where I don't believe that the Texans are this bad, or if I don't think the Colts are good enough to take care of business at home. I think
Hmm.
I have some pent up frustration, I'll call it, with Frank Reich and some of the early season decisions made with Jonathan Taylor. Maybe I'm taking that out. Like, how much am I in my own head about these two teams specifically, and how much is that dictating a situation where I probably would be better off getting away from the Rams because based on win percentages, they're more likely to win each of the next 2 weeks. If I haven't
Yeah.
used them already, saving them for next week at home against the Lions, that's a layup situation. We're in a pool
Right.
together where we get 2 strikes. I don't have a strike yet, so maybe in that situation, a 2 strike pool, finding the Colts or going to another secondary option is the right way to go because the odds of the Rams losing at home to the Lions in week 7, the Lions have
Infinitesimal.
an 8% chance of winning that game according to the Mike Clay system that is out there. So I'm blown away by how little faith I have in the Colts because just a year and change ago, I thought this was one of those teams that was on the rise, that was well coached, that I would love to use in a situation like this. And I'm looking at that team as more of a trap, probably because of the Colts more than the Texans.
Yeah, I can't really argue with anything that you put forth. And so for me, it once again just comes back to the reason why I'm not fading what feels like a carbon copy and paste situation from Vikings Lions a week ago is because I felt really good about the Cowboys last week. I felt really good about the Buccaneers last week. I felt really good about the Ravens last week. And, we saw how that went. But hey, it was still a win. I just felt like I had a lot of options where I could still spread them out and not be burning teams I wanted down the line, not still be backing a totally popular selection. Like there were a lot of different paths to travel down while fading the Vikings a week ago. I don't feel that same level of comfort with the other options I have not going with the Colts this week. So I will take that, that survivor mantra, when else are you going to be able to use them? That is something we always think about in Survivor. And like I said, I'll grudgingly take the Colts. I will not want to watch 1 second of this game because it could be a very uncomfortable Survivor style to watch. Like the Texans, they've been plucky. They've certainly been plucky. So it's one I'm going to do. I'm going to click it in, and then I am not going to pay any attention to it the rest of the week and just hope for the best, certainly with that one.